Charlie and I freaked out because we were convinced that we had somehow manifested that. I'm aware, I've received tons of emails. This goes against Christian doctrine.
Candace Owens' episode 253 sent shockwaves across the internet. When Candace dropped this explosive episode, no one expected the chain reaction that followed. From the moment she pressed record, her voice carried a tone people had never heard before, emotional, deliberate, and fearless. She didn't just speak, she revealed. Fans across YouTube and X instantly knew this wasn't another political debate. It was something deeper. Candace began by saying this episode would change the way you see everything. She described it as the moment when illusion shatters and truth finally forces its way into the light. As she introduced the topic, Charlie Kirk, her tone shifted. There was pain, confusion, and a hint of betrayal. She called it the moment reality cracked open, suggesting that something far more personal was unfolding behind the scenes. For years, Candace and Charlie Kirk appeared as allies in the conservative movement. Together, they led Turning Point USA to national prominence. But Candace hinted that what the public saw was only half the story. She described subtle tensions, private disagreements, and a feeling that something dark and unexplainable was hovering over Charlie for months. She revealed that before everything changed, she received a message that made her heart sink. A message from someone close to Charlie warning, "He's not safe." That was the moment Candace said she realized a hole had opened in reality, where logic no longer made sense, and truth was being hidden in plain sight. Within hours of the episode airing, the internet erupted. Charlie ripped a hole in reality, trended on X, Reddit, and YouTube simultaneously. Thousands of users began analyzing her words, freezing frames, and searching for hidden meanings. Some claimed she was exposing a cover-up. Others thought she was speaking metaphorically about political corruption. Whatever the case, the message landed like an earthquake. Candace's delivery was investigative and haunting. Her tone carried the weight of someone who had seen something they couldn't unsee. She didn't accuse directly, but her pauses said everything. At one point, she whispered, "When you know the truth, pretending becomes impossible." It sent chills through her audience. Listeners flooded her comment section with theories. Did Charlie confess something? Is Candace warning us? What's the hole in reality? Each new theory fueled the fire, and views climbed into the millions. Candace made it clear she wasn't speaking from hate. "This isn't an attack," she said firmly. "It's a warning and a plea for honesty." Her words painted Charlie not as an enemy, but as a man under immense pressure, possibly trapped by forces beyond his control. She described nights of silence, canceled meetings, and a version of Charlie she barely recognized anymore. As she spoke about Turning Point USA, she said it was the perfect name for a movement that just met its own turning point. The irony wasn't lost on her or her listeners. Political commentators began weighing in, calling it one of the most emotional and revealing podcast moments in recent conservative media. Mainstream networks stayed quiet, but the silence only made it more mysterious. In one of the episode's most gripping moments, Candace's voice trembled as she said, "I wish I didn't know what I know." Those words became viral sound bites across platforms. Many felt this was the first time Candace allowed herself to be vulnerable, and that vulnerability made her message even more powerful. As the episode drew to a close, she refused to provide a neat conclusion. "I won't tell you what to believe," she said, "but I'll tell you this. When reality tears open, what's hidden will always find its way out." Her audience hung on every word. Days later, search terms like Candace Owens Episode 253 full transcript, Charlie Kirk Candace fallout, and Candace Truth episode began dominating Google Trends. Digital analysts noted a spike in engagement from both political and entertainment communities, showing the story had crossed boundaries. What made it even more fascinating was how Candace left more questions than answers. Every time someone thought they figured it out, she'd post a cryptic message or quote a Bible verse hinting at deeper meaning. She spoke of spiritual warfare, deception, and the danger of living inside an illusion. Many began speculating that the hole in reality was symbolic, representing the collapse of false narratives within political systems. Others believed she was referring to a real event or secret that Charlie uncovered. Either way, the phrase became cultural shorthand for exposing uncomfortable truths. Candace's supporters called her brave, while critics accused her of stirring controversy for attention. But numbers don't lie. Episode 253 became one of her most watched broadcasts ever. She reminded her audience that seeking truth is never easy. "Truth is painful," she said. "That's why so few people ever face it." By the end of the episode, her tone softened. She thanked her listeners for having the courage to listen, adding, "We may not all agree, but we all deserve the truth." Her closing line echoed across social platforms. "This isn't the end. It's just the beginning." The phrase left fans wondering if another revelation was on the horizon. Since the episode, discussions haven't slowed. New podcasts, reaction videos, and think pieces continue to dissect her words line by line. And yet, the central mystery remains unsolved. What exactly did Candace mean when she said Charlie ripped a hole in reality? Whether it was a metaphor, a message, or a warning, one thing's certain: Candace Owens changed the conversation forever. After episode 253 aired, something shifted in how people viewed both Candace Owens and Charlie Kirk. The conversation was no longer just about politics. It was about perception, truth, and trust. Candace became the center of an unexpected storm. As her name dominated headlines across independent media, she didn't appear shaken. Instead, she seemed almost peaceful, as if she knew the chaos was part of a greater unveiling. In a follow-up live stream, she opened with chilling words, "You can't unsee what's already been revealed." She didn't need to repeat her earlier claims. The tone alone reignited speculation. Millions tuned in, desperate to know if Charlie Kirk had responded. He hadn't, and that silence became its own message. Viewers started piecing together the timeline, noticing how days before the episode dropped, Charlie's posts had turned unusually reflective, talking about unseen battles, tested seasons, and truth being too heavy for most. Suddenly, those posts felt connected to Candace's revelations. Social media erupted with captions like, "Charlie tried to warn us," and "Candace knew first. The pattern was too sharp to ignore." Candace's supporters claimed her message wasn't about Charlie alone. It was about something larger, spiritual, almost prophetic. They believed she was exposing a kind of moral fracture that had split open inside modern conservatism. Hashtags like #RippedReality and #Candace253 trended again, weeks after the episode first aired. Journalists began calling it a slow-burn viral moment, Because instead of fading away, the mystery grew stronger. It was no longer just a podcast. It was a cultural phenomenon. Attention soon turned toward Turning Point USA. Insiders whispered that the organization had gone quiet internally. Emails went unanswered, meetings postponed, and staff avoided mentioning Candace's name. No official statements were made, but anonymous voices told online outlets that something big happened behind closed doors. That one phrase alone, "something big," sent viewers into overdrive, keeping the story alive and fueling countless online theories. Candace broke her silence again with a single Instagram story. A black screen with white text that read, "Truth doesn't hide, it waits." It was simple, elegant, and cryptic, and it reignited the frenzy overnight. Her followers flooded her comment section, asking what she meant, but she gave no response. By saying nothing, Candace said everything. Her quiet confidence made people believe she was sitting on something far bigger than anyone realized. Podcasts and analysts began dissecting every phrase from episode 253. Some believed "ripped a hole in reality" was metaphorical, a way to describe how illusions collapse when hidden truths surface. Others believed she was speaking literally, that something had happened to Charlie Kirk, something real and serious. Whichever interpretation people chose, one thing was undeniable. Candace's storytelling had transcended politics and entered the realm of modern mythology. Mainstream media, which had initially ignored the story, finally joined the conversation. News outlets began publishing think pieces titled "Candace Owens Breaks the Internet Again." Even journalists who didn't usually cover her admitted that her delivery, emotional, spiritual, and poetic, had captivated millions. Some compared it to whistleblower culture. Others said she was simply reshaping political media into something rawer and more personal. Candace's tone softened over time. She began speaking about forgiveness, courage, and faith. "Truth will always test your loyalty, not to people, but to reality itself," she said in one live stream. The quote went viral within hours, shared by influencers, pastors, and motivational pages. It was the first time her message seemed to reach beyond politics, touching people who saw her episode as a metaphor for personal awakening. Weeks passed. Charlie Kirk finally appeared in an interview, but made no mention of Candace. Instead, he spoke about unity, redemption, and moving forward. It was a calm, almost humble tone, and that very avoidance made people more curious.